Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm super duper excited to be here with you today. And today I think I'm going to call this episode Find Out for Yourself. Find out for yourself. And if you've been around for a while, then you already you already know that I'm a big fan. Oh, I'm a big fan of FAFA, right? Fuck around. Fuck around and find out. I really love to find things out for myself. I don't like to just take other people's words for things. Although I will say this, right? I'm already off on a tangent. And we're back. I will say this. I do love reading a good testimonial, but still, even still, I have to find things out for myself. I don't even like to if people will say to me, well, what do you think about going to this place? I'm like, I haven't been there yet myself. I cannot give you my own real deal, Holyfield, true blue firsthand experience. I don't like to refer to things. I don't like to make recommendations until I have found out for myself. Now, these days, given that we have, oh my God, the internet and AI and social media, I'm just like dragging my fingers across my face, just like stretching it out like, oh God, right? With all of this stuff, it's so easy, I think, to be cynical. I think it's so easy to think of the worst of people. Now, sometimes they are showing us the worst of themselves. So they make it kind of hard to not be cynical, but it is so easy to be cynical. It is so easy to other people. It is so easy to think of worst of people. It is so easy to be swayed by other people's opinions and feelings and stories and examples and whatever, right? But I think it's so important that rather than taking everybody else's words as the gospel truth, that we find some shit out for ourselves. I'm a really big fan of finding out for yourself because I think that our own personal experiences are how we must navigate the world, right? Finding out what's true for us, finding out what resonates with us, finding out what lands for us. And this can get a little tricky in family dynamics because, and I'll just give you one example. This isn't what the show is about, but I will because I know somebody's probably going to think this. It's like there's this weird thing that happens in New England families, or we could say New England families or masshole families or whatever, or some people might even say Italian families, whatever families, fill in the blank. Like there's this code of loyalty where they're like, if I don't like somebody or something, you automatically have to not like them or that thing too. And I just think that's a way of making your world very small. And a lot of times we have to take into consideration, right? Who has the opinion? Who's telling the story? What lens? What point of view? Whatever. What's their trauma, tragedy, drama, where they come from things. So I just think it is so important that we find things out for ourselves with the caveat, of course, that we don't put ourselves in danger to find shit out. You know what I mean? Okay. So I think it is go try some things, go experience some things, go talk to some people, go read some books, do your own research, find out for yourself. Because for better or for worse, at least you're going to know what you think, what you feel, what your own experience has been. I think we give way too much of our own power away to the so-called experts, to the so-called influences, to whatever. And yes, there are people out there who have been doing things a really long time. And I might even do a whole show on this. There are times when people say to me, well, I've been doing this for like 25 years. And I'm like, yeah, but if you've been doing it wrong or fucked up for 25 years, that doesn't impress me. Time doesn't impress me all the time. It's like, what is your depth and level? And can you apply this to more than just this one thing? Meaning, so often I'm like, a lot of times people can only teach other people exactly like them. And I'm like, but can you apply, even like this to say in a yoga class, but can you meet all the different people who are in front of you? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, yes, of course, there will have to be a specialty class because of physical limitations or whatever, certain situations. But for the most part, you guys, what I'm saying is like find out for yourself. And let me give you some experiences that I've had and why I think this is so important. Naturally, I think I kind of come to this wanting to find out for myself for a lot of different reasons. But one of them, which has kind of come to my attention more recently, in the past, maybe, I don't know, what's it been? What year are we in? Like 8 years. So I am not an expert in like human design. I know a teeny tiny bit. But one of my friends, Meg Haynes, some of you might know her as Meg Marinaccio, but Meg Haynes, meghaynes.com, you can go check her out. She knows a lot about human design. And one of the things she told me about my human design chart and my human design of like how I kind of show up in the world is I have what's called a line 3, right? And I hope you get curious about like what your chat, what it might reveal to you. Whether you believe in this stuff or not, you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid and start running your life based off of your human design chart might reveal. But I do think it's interesting, and I think of all these tools of ways of just like kind of reflecting back to us more information about ourselves. And if we're curious, we can learn all kinds of things. So I have a line 3, which is basically called the experimenta, sometimes called the Mata, but not the Mata in the way that we think of Mata, but it's like the experimenta. So this tells you everything, right? So some of the things that are like wicked important to me in the way that I move through the world is that so many things are about trial and error. I got to try things and find them out, right? So we are often like pioneers, they say. We're pioneers who test life. We find out what does and doesn't work through direct personal experience. That is me 100%. I've got to go and meet the person and do the thing and go to the event and listen to the pod. I got to find out for myself what I think. I love to hear what other people think, but then I'm like, let me go have my own experience, and then I can kind of reflect against it and match it, or like go like, ooh, that was not my experience at all, right? And get curious about it. We often tend to have resilience and mastery, meaning like we face a lot of frequent setbacks because we're trying so many things, right? So while we might face a lot of frequent setbacks, what it really ends up doing is those experiences cultivate our own deep wisdom. We end up like taking our failures and we kind of turn them into practical data. Like, oh, this is what I learned. This is what I discovered. And I really love that. Even with teachers and people that I really, really respect, or books that I've read that have been like life altering, I'm like, yeah, I've got to now go practice this. I've got to now put this in to practical everyday applications, like down to earth spiritual applications or whatever, to find out if this is something that is for me, something that I personally will find useful, right? So I end up with a lot of resiliency because I get knocked on my ass a lot, but then I learn from it, or I try to learn from it, not try to learn from it, I do my best. We also end up having what they call authenticity, because we tend to connect with others through our genuine, often humorous and humbling life stories and failed experiments, right? So we can say, oh yeah, I tried that one time. Let me tell you what happened. And that's exactly what I'm doing today on this podcast, is I'm going to share with you an experiment I just did, a situation, or like several situations that I just experienced. And it's good storytelling, but it's also like meaning, like, I hope you're going to find something in it that'll be helpful, using story to explain some things. But often my loss is your gain, because I go out and try something first and then I report back. And I love to be steadfast. I love to be resolute. I love to make my full report on things. And we also tend to be we have the messy path. So line 3s, we are meant, it says, I'm reading this one directly. It says line 3s are meant to break old bonds, habits, or projects that no longer work, to foster progress and evolution. Amen. Double amen hands to that. I am all about that. Yeah, they say this is how it's always been. They say this is how the system is. And I'm not really into systems that don't actually work. I'm not into systems that oppress. I'm not into systems that are not inclusive. I'm not really into systems that tear other people down, or paint pictures about other groups of people or whatever that aren't true, that are just full bullshit. And like I said, right now in the world, with the political divide and the divisiveness and the hatred and all the stuff that gets spewed online between the left and the right and the conservatives and the liberals and this and that, right? I'm always just like, hey, look, I got to go find out for myself. And the experiment that I just recently did, which I'm going to tell you about right now. But before I do, so like I tried something recently. I'm going to share with you what I discovered. But what also kind of prompted this podcast today, kind of putting all the pieces together, is a quote from Jonathan Franzen. Jonathan Franzen is a famous author. He's no longer with us, and he wrote a book called Farther Away. And this was this quote, and I've mentioned it before on another episode, but it stays with me. I love this quote. He says this. He says, when you stay in your room and rage and sneer or shrug your shoulders, as I did for many years, the world and its problems are impossibly daunting. But when you go out and put yourself in real relation to real people or even just real animals, there's a very real danger that you might end up loving some of them. And who knows what might happen to you then? So today I'm going to tell you what happened to me when I went out and put myself in real relation to real people, but in a different way. Because of course we do that all the time, right? If you have a sweetie, if you have friends, if you have family members. But I went out and I went out, but like people kind of came to me, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Okay, story time. Buckle up for safety. Okay, so you, like me, might have been a kid that grew up around like flea markets and yard sales, garage sales, all that stuff. My grandmother Kenny was kind of a notorious yard sailor. But when you grow up kind of broke, when you grow up kind of like first world poor, right? Trying to find things on the cheap. Like I remember we were like the kids of like the hand-me-down clothes. We would get like bags, garbage bags, big brown hefty bags or green, those green bags, right? The dark green bags with other people's shit in it. People's kids who had outgrown stuff. It would come to like our house and we'd pick through it. And I remember like going through stuff and finding stuff. And, so we were like those kids, right? We did a lot of yard sales and all that stuff. But nowadays they have like online things. So there's like Etsy and Poshmark and like the marketplace and Craigslist. There's even like online garage sales and online like groups where you can like post shit that you have for sale. And there's even like swap meets and stuff like that. So it's really kind of cool. So I was like, I want to sell some things. I was like, some of the things were like dumbbells and stuff like that because I was getting new ones. I was replacing my old cast iron ones. I wanted to get rubber plated ones, blah, blah, blah. So I had these different things, like items in my house that I wanted to sell. Now, the cool thing for me is that I tend to keep everything. Like if I buy something new, I always keep the paperwork for that thing. It could literally be like a noise machine or a humidifier or a little whatever the fuck. I keep everything because I don't know. I like to always know. Like if it breaks, how do I fix it? Is there a warranty on this thing? It had never occurred to me that it would come in handy years later when I want to sell something or months later or whatever, but I do. So I have like a system. Of course I do. If you know me, of course I do. So I wanted to sell some things online and I had never done it before. So I reached out to somebody I know who was really good at selling stuff. And I asked them, I was like, so, okay, I want to do this thing. I want to do this experiment. I want to find out for myself, like what this thing is like and how do I do it? And so they had told me about what they have done. And then they started to describe their experiences. And I got to tell you, it wasn't like a super positive one. It was like the thing that I consistently heard from people is this: get used to, just accept the fact that people are going to be flakes. I heard that all the time. People are going to set appointments and then not show up. People aren't going to meet you when they say that. People are going to be flakes. Okay. People are going to lowball you. People are going to try to haggle with you. People aren't going to want to pay what you're actually asking for. Da 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 da. People are always working an angle, like da da da. So basically, mostly what I was hearing is that you can go ahead and try to do this, but just be prepared for a really unsatisfying experience, right? And I was like, huh. I mean, but so many people do it. Like, is it really that bad? And I'm like, I'm going to go out and find out for myself, right? Because this is how I do things. It is how I learn. And it's from my own learning, especially as a teacher and a mentor and a speaker and a storyteller, a writer, that I'm like, ooh, I can take these experiences and then use them, right? As somebody who communicates, I'm like, these are like, so I'm going to break down some of the items that I sold and some of the experiences that I had. because this was me going out into the world. I'm like, I'm not going to sit in my room and in my house and shrug my shoulders and sneer and be like, oh, we're all fucked and everybody sucks and da 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 da, and just judging the rest of the world and being cynical. I'm like, I want to see. This was like a huge experiment for me. And I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. I was really surprised, especially after all of the stuff that I heard, like all the danger, Will Robinson, and people are going to let you down and people are going to be a drag. Now, I will preface it with this. Many people did try to lowball me. Many people did try to work an angle. But my approach to this was like, I'm not here to play fucking games. I'm going to list these things at the price that I want, that I already think is fair. A lot of times I discounted things like 50% from what I paid for them. And some of these things were like still brand new. So I'm like, I'm not haggling. I'm not playing this game. I'm not doing bullshit, right? So that part was true. Now, that is just how it is with yard sales. You mark something like, you do a yard sale, you do a garage sale, you mark it for $1. People are like, will you take 50 cents? Will you take, like, I grew up watching humans in action, right? So that didn't bother me so much. That part I expected. But like the flakiness and all these other things, like the weirdos that are going to like, be careful, like meet in a public place, like all the information that I got. Okay. So one of the common threads that I found that I thought was so fascinating is that number one, and I kind of know this part about people, but people really love to be seen and heard and to be asked questions about themselves. I already know this as somebody who interviews people, as somebody who communicates with people, right? And it works out because I'm wicked curious by nature. So I love to learn about people and talk about people. But it's amazing how much information a person will give you about themselves within moments of meeting them. I think it's a fascinating thing. And you can please write to me and tell me if that's also your experience. But so I might change some of the slight details of these people because, I mean, it's not like I just, just to be mindful, but some of the details don't really matter. Like I can just leave them as they are. But one thing I was selling was I had just bought a weight bench and some plates, right? Some rubber bump up plates, right? So they were like practically brand new. And I had a few other items, like a step bench, like, to do like step aerobics or whatever, like certain things that I had. And this person shows up and they come out of their car and so like I'm always like, what are you driving? Da 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 da. Right. And I always do this very safely. I make sure there's another person, that I don't do this alone, whatever. So, person shows up, they come in, and as they're grabbing things, as they first step into my house, the first thing that they see in my basement really is they see these huge bookshelves. And one bookshelf has like all these Stephen King books on them. And they immediately start talking to me about Stephen King and Stephen King books and what an impact they've had on their life. And I'm like, me too. And so we have this whole long thing. And then I find out that they're a chef and they're a chef in Portsmouth. And they're actually a chef in a building right next door to one of my best friend's businesses. So we have all these layers of connection. And by the end of this conversation, I'm learning about they wish that they want to write, they want to get back to writing. So I'm learning all about this person's family, their dreams, their desires, what they do for work, who they are. And they're like, you've got to come sometime and let me cook you a vegan meal. And it's like, oh my God, like that was literally my very first experience. This person showed up on time. In fact, writing to me, I'm leaving right now. This is my ETA, like whatever. I'm like, great, like so responsible, so friendly, so cool. And I was like, wow, they paid my asking price. They were really friendly. They were really amazing. Like faith in humanity starts to be restored, right? Not that I ever lose it, but these days it can be a little rough out there. You know what I'm saying? It's a little tough sometimes and I always say this is why I try to focus on the good, the beautiful, and the holy, right? I tend to see the good in people. I tend to see the good in people. And that shiny veneer sometimes can be worn down a little bit by what we see happening in the world and what we see, like, the comments you read online, the vibe, the energy, the attacking, the wars, the hatred, the misogyny, the Epstein files, the raping children. Like, it can be a lot on the psyche, right? It can be a lot on the nervous system. It can be a lot on your, like, hopefulness, right, for the world. So I was like, wow, that was a really good positive encounter. Like, I love it. And I learned that this person is like, as a chef, they're like, my life has been very busy. I put on a little bit of weight. I want to like get back in shape. And I was like, oh, it made me so happy that my things that I was selling was going to be, used for good use. I was like, that's awesome. Okay. The second person shows up. Now, this is a trip. Now, again, the common theme that ran through this for me is that everybody pretty much, except for one person, they had to keep bumping out their time, but I totally understood. And I had the time to give that day, so it wasn't a big deal. But they would touch base with me every time. Like they'd be like, I'm so sorry, da 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 da. And I'm like, no problem. I'm just working from home. Don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. But everybody like showed up on time. I thought this was amazing. So this next person, I was selling a little walking treadmill pad that I had. Okay. This person pulls up. Holy shit, you guys. I was not prepared for this. I can't believe I haven't told this story before yet. So this person pulls up and they pull forward so that I'm standing in the basement, right? And I can see, like, how do I explain this? They're in an SUV of a kind, right? I'm being vague. They're in an SUV of a kind, and they pull forward enough past my basement door that I can see that they have installed in their back window an electronic sign. And as soon as I see the sign and the flashing lights, those signs where the message scrolls across it, so like you have to keep reading. And I immediately think to myself, oh, this must be a business person. This must be a fellow entrepreneur. I wonder what their business name is or whatever, right? Because of course, I'm just like, do. I wonder what this person is. I can talk to them about their business, whatever. But this is what the sign literally says. Now, this one stopped me in my tracks. This one I was not prepared for. I got to tell you, I was like, okay, buckle up for safety. Literally, what the electronic sign is scrolling in big red letters is this: breaking news! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Stores are running out of tampons due to the rise of pussies in this country. Oh my God. I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I'm like, here you are, fafoing. Here you are, fucking around and finding out. And it's like, oh my God. And I was like, look, it would be so easy to judge this person, to make an assumption about them, like what I think, how they politically lean, like whatever. And I was like, okay, just practice what you preach. Meet this person with curiosity. Meet these people like without judgment. You know what I mean? And it turns out that this person was incredibly polite, was incredibly kind, and they were there. Like, they're like, I said, oh, you're getting this for yourself? And this man says, no, I'm getting it for my wife. She really wants one and she has no idea. And I saw that this one was like practically brand new and it's perfect. And I can't wait to surprise her. And then he tells me how he's going to set it up in the kitchen, like just have it be there in the kitchen when she gets home. And it's like this beautiful, lovely gesture. And I'm just like flabbergasted. I'm just like, I just love how surprising people are sometimes, and I was like, wow, here I am just relating to real people, putting myself in relation to real people. And even though I'm looking at that sign and going, oh my God, like the little masshole kid in me, like like laughs at it. The other part of me is like, oh God, like I'm shaking my head, like I'm scratching my head, like, oh God, is that what we want to be putting in because I'm thinking the level of commitment that you not only had to buy this thing, you had to install this thing, you had to get power to this thing, you had to choose the message it was going to say, you had to like type it in, and then you just let it run. Even when your car's parked, even when your car's not idling, like your car's, the sign is just going. I was like, oh my God, it was such a trip. And then they turned out to be incredibly kind and thoughtful. And I was like, wow, people are so fascinating. Next person comes for like a workout bench that I had. And their person, their sweetie, actually had mutual friends of mine. but she sent her husband to like pick it up. So that was really fun. We connected, on online, and then the husband shows up and I ended up talking to him. Like, and all these people, here's the other thing. I ended up talking to all these people. Most people said to me, look, people are going to show up. They don't want to talk. Like, just do the exchange, get in, get out, like, let it be done. And I got to tell you, these people on average hung out for like 20 minutes minimum, like talking, sharing, telling me things about themselves. I'm asking questions. I'm learning all about them. It was fantastic. So this guy turns out he's a landscaper and he does stonework. And we were just talking about his approach to design. And I'm like, how did you get into this business? And learning about their childhood dreams and like how they started being like a stone and landscape person, and telling me the stories about the clients that they had in some of the richest places up in the lakes regions, like on Winnipesaukee, and just the experiences with rich clients versus people, and the level of appreciation and gratitude that's often lacking with people who actually have more. And so like it's a study in human behavior. And I just find the whole thing fascinating. And, we're talking about my yacht and like the things I could do. And I'm just like, how cool is this? Like, I'm making money and I'm meeting people and I'm learning shit. Like, how amazing is this? You know what I mean? It was just so incredible. And then I was selling, and I hope you're finding this interesting in some way. How this applies to you is we've got to go out and interact with others so we can decide for ourselves what we think. Right? It's like, again, it's so easy to just label people and judge people and throw people into these columns or into these groups of people and say, well, they're all like this or they're all like that. And I don't want to be put in a box. I'm like, hey, wait till you have your own experience with me. If I have had people in my life who don't like me based on what somebody else said or somebody else did. And I'm like, hey, I've grown since then. Hey, I'm different since then. If you guys want to keep telling a story about me when I was 17, 21, 30, whatever the thing is, I'm like, have you met me lately? So I like to give people, somebody, a masshole kid that I know the other day said, give people enough rope to hang themselves with. And I'm like, well, yeah. So a way of saying that is give people the opportunity to show you who they are. Give people the opportunity to show you their real colors. Now, I'm not naive. I know that these interactions were only like, I'm seeing like a peep show, a little peek into the window of who people are. But people are sometimes often more honest with total strangers than they are with their closest loved ones. This has just been my experience. It has been my experience almost my whole life, because a lot of times they're not worried about the backstory and being judged and how what they're saying is going to be interpreted through the lens of how they know that person always takes things or says things or feels things or whatever. So I find that it's really, really, really revealing. People are so fascinating. So I had this gray swivel sliding chair, and it was actually like a maternity chair. But I had bought it because sometimes when I like to read or when I'm holding, like, back then I had so many animals, and it was like being able to hold the, like, Toby pajamas in my lap or Binky buttons. And I'm like, oh, I just want a big chair that I can recline in and rock and swivel and read or whatever. But I didn't use it that much, right? I had this idea. It's always like the idea is better than your head, than what you really do. You think you're going to use something, double amen hands if you've ever experienced that. You buy something thinking, oh yeah, this is so great, I'm going to use it. And then you find out like, oh, I'm making this up, but like, oh, I never used those cross country skis, or I never actually took up archery, or I never whatever. So it's better on paper than reality. So I was like, all right, this chair is like really in good shape. I'm going to sell it. Now, here's the other thing. I saw this post the other day. It made me laugh so hard. And my sister and I have often joked that, and my sweetie often says that I would have been a really good detective because I'm really curious and I love to research and I love to find out shit. And I'm fascinated by people. So I often think, oh, I would have been a good private investigator. And I saw this woman the other day doing a video and she says, I'm a find out-ologist. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a find out-ologist too. So anytime somebody would send me a message like, is this still available? Right? I'm interested in this. Is this still available? I would always go to their profile. I always go to their profile and see who I'm dealing with. I'm like, okay, who's this person who's reaching out to me, who might be coming to my home address or meeting me in a parking lot somewhere, whatever. I'm like, I need to know who these people are. So I always go and check them out. And I'm like, oh my God, these people who want to come and get this chair, they're like Christian pastors. So I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they're pastor leaders. One does like youth, youth worship leadership. The guy that was the woman, and the guy did whatever he did. And I thought, oh my God, they're in front of people talking all the time. They're probably going to come in and they're going to want to talk with me and they're going to share with me. No, they were so quiet. They were so reserved. All I really got from them is like where they lived, that they were about to have a baby, that this was their second baby, and that they didn't have like one of these chairs the first time, and they just thought it would be really good, and they thought it was great, and it was really clean, and they loved it, and blah blah. And it was like that was a pretty quick one. But the people that I expected to be like boisterous or very talkative or comfortable meeting a stranger, they were the total opposite. I was like, this is so fascinating to me. They were shy, they were quiet, they were reserved. So you also got to know, like, when I was like, well, if I keep asking them too many questions, which is my nature, I didn't want to freak them out. I didn't want to scare them away with my curiosity, which some people might find nosy, but it's really, I'm just really interested in people. Okay, but these last two are like some of my favorite experiences. And again, I'm sharing all of this because I like to be surprised. I like to see how my ego mind immediately judges, like with the past is. I like to be wrong sometimes. I like to find out, like, oh, you had an idea of who you think these people were, or you have an idea of who you think that person is. Like, I love to be surprised. I love to find out some shit, not just about other people, but about myself and how I think and why I think that way and the stories I tell and what I believe. This is an exercise in like finding shit out about yourself too. Okay. So the last two were like the best. Okay. So I was selling these dumbbells in a weight rack, like I said, because I had just gotten my sweetie and I just upgraded because we're strength training at home now. So first thing I realized about this person, just simply in the way that they're talking to me, is that they definitely have a military background. Everything is very abrupt and curt and specific and intentional. And it's like, I'll be there in like, 1,200 hours or 1,000 hours or, whatever. And I'm like having to do like the code in my head, like, oh yeah, that means 1:30, like whatever it was. I'm like, okay. And they're like, I can come and get these today. They're like very direct, very right now. Let's do this thing. And I was like, okay, and they write to me. I said, well, when you tell me that I said, where are you coming from? I always ask that, where are you coming from? And they'll say, whatever, Gilmington, like Hopkinton, Concord, whatever. And I'm like, okay, as soon as you tell me where you're coming from and you're on your way, you're actually on your way, I'll send you the address, right? So this person is like, I send them the address, and within seconds, they're like, ETA, like I'll make up a time, ETA 2:12. And I'm like, shit, that's in like 8 minutes. Like they're coming, you know what I mean? And I start laughing. They pull up, I shit you not. It is 2:12. Like it is like on time, not a second to spare in the driveway. Let's go. And they get out and they're in a uniform of sorts, right? And I'm immediately like, okay, I recognize the haircut. I recognize the color of the clothes. I recognize the vibe. I see the patches, like whatever. And I'm like, okay, this is a serious person. This is like a military veteran, like does not mess around. And you're thinking this person is going to be like this person is going to be friendly. They're going to be polite, but they're not going to let you in, right? Not that I have any expectation that they need to, but you immediately, your brain starts to write a story based on visuals, like what you're seeing. When I tell you that this person revealed so much personal stuff to me in a short period of time, I was like, holy shit. And the things that I mean, I found out when they were retiring. I like literally, I'm not kidding you when I said they told me I'm retiring in this many months, this many days, this many hours. And I was like, I said, like counting down the clock, huh? Yeah. And then I'm going to X, Y, and Z. And they start to tell me their dream, right? What they're going to do. I want to buy an RV. I'm going to chase the sun. I'm going to do this. I find out that this person is the youngest of a certain number of siblings and that he's the only one left. I find out, like, I mean, unbelievable, unbelievable the depth of what this person revealed to me. And I'm just like, this is a no nonsense person. And I was like, wow. And two things that I took away from this, besides being surprised and just being pleasantly surprised, they say to me, right? Because they've seen it all. They're not only a military veteran, they're on the force, right? They're on the job of some kind. That's what I'm comfortable saying. And they've seen it all. And you can tell. I mean, I can literally tell by what I see in their eyes that they have seen the worst of humanity. So when this person turns to me after meeting me and my sweetie, and he says, you know, and he smiles at us and he says, there's still good people in the world. Like, oh, I swear my heart grew like 3 sizes, like the Grinch. It was just like boing, boing, boing. It just like, whoa, like, whoa, just like blew out of my heart. My heart just blew out of my chest. I was like, wow. And then I said, I was asking him about the weights. And he said, they're for my friend's son because this stuff is really good for kids. This is good for young men. And I was like, I 100% agree with you. I said, that's really kind that you're picking them up for him. Meaning like, oh, the friend must have saw the ad and like sent the guy whatever. And he says, they don't even know I'm doing it yet. And I was just like, oh my God, this person with this tough and gruff exterior is just a sweetheart, is a thoughtful person, is thinking about others. It was such a remarkable, I will never forget that exchange probably as long as I live. That was a really, really powerful experience for me. Because they told me some other things that I don't feel comfortable revealing because they told me to my face it's not my story to tell. Let me put it that way. And that was a really powerful experience. And I just thought, man, I just love that you're surprising me by surprising somebody else's kid. It's not even his own kid. Oh my God, I don't think he had children. Okay. And then the last one, you guys, this is so fantastic. And this might be helpful for you or somebody you know or love. So I had these orange floor chairs and I had this pink exercise mat. And this person reached out to me and I had two different listings, right? Two different ads or whatever you want to call them. And they responded to both of them. And they didn't realize yet I was the same person. So when I responded, they put two and two together and they're like, oh my God, you're the same person. It would be great if I could pick these up together. And I'm like, cool. So again, I'm a find outologist. So I go and find out for myself, who is this person? And I see. And what I see makes me so happy that I practically want to give the stuff away. And so she's a young woman and she's opening, and I'm shouting this one out because I want people to support her business. So she's a young woman. She's like 25. She's opening a new spot in Concord, New Hampshire, and it's called Little Bloom Studio. And what she's going to be offering is a calming sensory space for neurodivergent children and young adults so that they can have experiences in a safe environment. And she has a lot of background working with neurodivergent children, ABA, but she also used to be a hairstylist. So what she's doing is she's creating a place that offers sensory-friendly haircuts and yoga classes. How amazing is that? It's going to be this little studio in Concord on Manchester Street. And I'm just going to read directly. It says, it's intentionally designed to have everyday experiences feel more accessible and less overwhelming, especially for children and young adults who may struggle with unfamiliar noises, unpredictable movement, and traditional group settings. I'm like, oh my God, I love that my items are going to be in this little yoga studio / haircutting salon where people who are neurodivergent, young children, whatever, can come with their families and have an experience that is suited to helping them. I was just like, oh my God. So I did actually. I gave her one of the items, like much cheaper. I was like, you know what? Just here. Like, I'm just so happy that you're taking it and it's going into a good place. It just made me so happy. My experience was the opposite of everything I had been told about what I should expect selling things online. Yes, like I said, there were a few people that tried to lowball me, and I just wrote back and said, hey, I priced this at a price that I already thought was fair. And they would be like, no, thanks. And I'm like, okay, have a good day, whatever. I didn't take it personally. I wasn't willing to budge. And something that the military guy said to me is, he's like, here's the thing. When you see something that's a good price and you want it, you got to strike. He's like, yeah, you got to strike. You just got to do it. No nonsense. And he's like, if I think the price is fair, I'm just going to pay. I'm not going to try to get somebody to. I was like, oh my God, you're a person. I'm like, yes, 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 and yes. So you guys, here's the big question that I want to leave you with. And I hope you have found this at the very least entertaining, learning about this. Maybe you didn't. I'm just really fascinated by humans and human behavior and why we think what we think and say what we say and believe what we believe and do what we do. And I think if more people took the time to be curious about themselves and each other, we would have a different world rather than just laying our beliefs and our patterns and our fears all on top of each other, right? Our racism, our misogyny, our sexism, our bullshit. If we really understood why we are imprinted with those beliefs in the first place and we did some work to unlearn some shit, the world would be a different place. Hence why I do the work that I do. But I had to start with myself, and I continue to work on myself, because whenever you start to find those sticky places or those tricky places or those places in you where you're like, I don't think that thought, that belief, that story is serving me or anybody else anymore. We need to do some work. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What have you been believing about other people and yourself based on what other people have told you? What have you been believing about other people and yourself based on what others have told you? Whether it's the internet or the pundit on TV or the so-called expert or doctor or wellness influencer or whatever the fuck, because there's a gazillion opinions coming at us all the time. And it was so funny. There's this guy right now online who does these videos, and he just did like this graph, right? You know, you do a graph where one side, like think of it like an L shape, right? So there's the upside and the across side. And he was drawing and saying about opinions. And he was drawing this graph, and he says, the less I ask, the more you should not tell me. The less I ask, the more you shut up. It was so funny. And it was all about like nobody's asking for your opinion. The less people ask, which is nobody's asking, the more you should shut up and not give your opinion. I thought it was so funny. But the world is not designed like that right now. Right now, everybody wants to be an armchair expert. Right now, everybody wants to be selling you something, whether it's their opinion, their product, their program, their bullshit, whatever it is. So we have to have greater levels of self-discernment. But we can't really discern when we don't have a foundation of self-trust and trusting ourselves. So here's my second question. How might things change? How might your life change if you started getting more curious for yourself? If you started trusting your own discernment and yourself more? And you might do this through reading more books. You might do it by doing your own research, listening to, reputable sources, finding out, doing the homework to find out if it's a reputable source, right? If we start to trust ourselves more, have more discernment, get more self-knowledge, get more self-integrity, self-awareness, whatever, we are going to have a really different experience in life. And I really want to encourage you to just stop drinking everybody else's Kool-Aid. Go out amongst the real people and have real relationships. Go out and have relationships with animals, with nature, with others, with strangers, and come to find out for yourself what you think, what you feel, what you believe, what your experience has been. You might not be a line 3, but there's some shit that you could really benefit from, of taking some of those traits of being curious and going out, right? FAFOing. Find out for yourself. This is what writers have known all along. As writers, we often say, I write to discover what I think, what I feel, and what I believe. We think we know what we believe, and then we start talking, and then we start writing, and then we start having conversations, and we realize that our minds are actually malleable. There is neuroplasticity. We can learn things, unlearn things, and relearn things. But not if we're not willing to find out. And you got to find out for yourself. Be curious about the person in your family that everybody has always said, they're the black sheep, they're this, they're that, because I guarantee you there is another side of the story. I guarantee you there is a different perspective. And if we're more willing to put ourselves in other people's shoes, to suspend our judgment and to be more curious, you might just find out that we are all a lot more alike than we think. And look, I stand pretty firmly, right, I always say I go back to being an independent, but I tend to obviously lean right more towards the Democratic and the liberal side. I am like that's how I kind of I guess I don't do identity politics so much as saying I'm this thing. It's more about what are the issues, what are the things, what am I getting? So I'm not shy. I'm very open about what I think politically and where I land and where I stand, you know? But you still got to find out shit for yourself. You don't just drink the Kool-Aid, right? You got to be curious. So I hope that this has been helpful to you in some way. At the very least, I always say, I hope that the podcast either is, educates, elevates, enlightens, entertains, or makes some sort of emotional connection. So I hope at least one of those things happened for you today. I appreciate you so much for being here and spending time with me. And you guys, if you want to have some real life in-person hands-on experiences in your local, I offer stuff. I do Thai yoga massage / Thai yoga body work. I often have workshops in town, right? I teach yoga classes. I do mentoring. You can mentor over Voxa, a voice app. You don't even have to get on a call. Have a little hot to hot day with me. But I cannot be replaced by AI. That's one of the things I'm not a fan of AI at all. But me and my work is very literally hands-on, right? In person a lot of times. So I can't be replaced by some machine. AI is just a thinking, like it's really not even thinking. It's more like computing machine. It's never going to replace human heartbeat. It's never going to replace the warmth of a human body. It's never going to replace the experience of human presence, of somebody being in a room with you and really paying attention and asking you questions and noticing your body language and your energy and how you feel and responding to that. And that's one of the experiences that I really had with this whole thing of selling these things to total strangers who I got to meet in real relation in real time. And I know it's just a snippet, it's just a little window of time, but I could be in the room with them and see their body language and see the pain in their eyes or see their bodies and see how they hold themselves, how they talk, and that's irreplaceable. And I think the more that and I know I'm on a tangent right now, so thank you for being here, but I think this is what the world is longing for, and it's only going to get stronger. That analog, in-person, small groups. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to actually feel connected to real humans, not through devices, but like looking each other in the eye, being able to hear their breath, being able to see them. So it's a powerful thing. So I don't know, you guys, find out for yourself. Thank you for being here. Wherever you go, may you leave the animals and the people and yourself and the environment and the planet better than how you first found it. Wherever you go, may you and your presence and your love and your energy and your curiosity, your desire to really find out, be a blessing. Bye.